ANZAC message is very relevant to young Australians, and that's defined in many ways, but essentially it hangs around values like duty, service, courage, mateship, humour in adversity, making jokes when things go bad, and those are all values from which we can all learn if we want this to continue being a lucky country. We talk about the ANZAC Day landings at Gallipoli on April 25, 1915, but in fact we had sent men to 2 wars in South Africa before that. But on that occasion in the Great War in 1915, for the first time Australians fought under their own command, more or less, and did so with a great deal of courage, a great deal of fortitude, and Australians here were very proud of that. I was involved in the war in Vietnam in 1967. It was rather a sad and wasteful experience in the end. It's very hard to explain what a war experience is like. I had 5 contacts with the enemy, the Viet Cong. 3 of those were over in less than a minute. I had 2 long engagements which scared the daylights out of me. I had one occasion when I was lying on the ground thinking that if I breathed in I would breathe in a bullet, because the air just seemed to be absolutely full of bullets. But I also have to say that apart from those few moments of terror, you spend a lot of a war being bored stiff. I didn't smoke when I went to Vietnam. I was smoking 3 packs a day when I came back, and that was partly just for something to do. After I got out of the army, I was able to settle down and get married and pursue a career, and I think that army training has always stood me in good stead. I'm worried that there are generations now growing up who see the war as, or who see war and soldiering and fighting as dramatic and glorious and romantic. It is often dramatic, I can tell you. It's very rarely glorious, and it's never romantic. Wars can be worth fighting. Often they're not. I'm not sure how you judge that, except that you can say very clearly that things like the Great War in France and Belgium, where people sat opposite each other in trenches for months at a time, bombing each other for no good reason, getting nowhere, making no progress. I find it impossible to find any justification for that at all. But equally, we have to have some sort of international ability to police the behaviour of leaders and countries in the interests of our collective humanity. If I may use an example, in East Timor, the people voted to be independent of Indonesia. Indonesia said that they didn't want that to happen, and there was much killing and much damage. Our army went to East Timor before the United Nations by some considerable time. The killing stopped when our soldiers arrived. We hardly fired a shot. And I think that was one of the best uses of an army, because for once we didn't add to the destruction. It's important that your generation and all the generations that follow it understand the value of service, understand the value of sacrifice, understand the value of courage, and a few things, words that we're embarrassed to use now, like patriotism and duty. We don't talk about patriotism now because patriotism's become an embarrassing word. But I love this country, and I have travelled in a great many countries, and I think it's quite right that young Australians should grow up knowing that they are growing up in a country in which you can be very lucky if you're prepared to work, if you can put luck and work together. I think it's important that we grow up being terribly proud of our country, as long as we look at 2 things: why it's a good country, and therefore what we need to do more of, but if we also stay aware that it's a long way from perfect. If we can see duty and service and sacrifice as part of the way we see ourselves being part of the country, then there's enormous value in it to your generation and to the generations that will follow you.